right, welcome back to the Professional Amateurs Podcast. Today we got another great guest for you guys. Today's guest is Russ Higgins. Now, Russ is the president of Second Swing. If you're not familiar, Second Swing is a golf retailer. They specialize in used golf clubs. They do sell new golf clubs, but they are used golf clubs and fittings, custom fittings, retail, in-person, online. I personally am a customer of Second Swing on a pretty regular basis. And I've had the good fortune to meet Russ and get to know him a little bit. And his business for me is a really inspirational business. It's something that I admire. Being that I've been a customer, I love the customer experience. I have a ton of admiration for what they've accomplished from a business side of things. And so I was lucky enough to convince Russ to join me for a conversation and tell the story of Second Swing and give me some of his leadership principles and his perspectives on leading a company and leading people and creating jobs in golf. So I'm really excited to share this with everybody, and I hope you enjoy. I have one on. Before we started, I was like, I should put the Second Swing hat on. We got to do this. I
love it.
I got to put the uniform on. I need a shelf behind me. I can put for the culture. I have the golf bags behind me, but I need a shelf
it.
up
I
here
see that
behind me.
you got the PGA Championship logo there, or head cover, I
Yeah.
think, on that. Yeah, is that right or not?
Yep,
No, that's a different one.
No, that's the one. That's the.
Is it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's
There we
Quail
go.
Hollow
There we
head
go.
cover.
Love it.
I've just got it sitting on an alignment stick right now, though, because I don't own a blade putter anymore.
Nah,
So
overrated.
But yeah, man. So, hey, thanks for doing this. So, as listeners, as you just heard in the intro, Russ Higgins, president of Second Swing. And Second Swing, if you're not familiar, is the largest retailer of used golf clubs in the country. And I imagine if you're ranking golf retailers, one of the largest golf retailers in general in the country right now as well. And I'm lucky enough to know Russ, through my profession. Russ's son plays baseball, and so his son got involved with my program, and it's been a real pleasure getting to know you, Russ. And but I have a ton of admiration for your business, and so I'm a customer, I'm a frequent customer as well. So I wanted to make sure to drag you onto this podcast and get some of the background of your business journey, of your leadership principles, and some of that other stuff. So thanks for doing this.
I greatly appreciate the invitation, and happy to. Like any typical golfer, we love to talk about ourselves. So happy to be here and to explore the opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah. All right. So let's start from the beginning, kind of. So we were just right before we started recording, we were talking about the founder of Second Swing, Simon. And is it? I've only ever seen his name written. I don't want to pronounce it wrong. Is it Kalal? Kala. Okay. So Simon Kala is the founder of Second Swing, and the official corporate story is he's I do some research for these things, and he was a left-handed golfer when he was playing for the Gophers, and it's hard to find used left-handed clubs, and he's like, there's got to be a better solution for this, and so he started buying and selling used clubs and kind of became a conduit for this himself, and then that was the genesis of the idea of Second Swing. But give me the inside track. So we have, officially starting in way back in the 90s, when I think Simon was still at Carlson Business School. But Second Swing as we know it didn't really re-begin until 2007. So give me the background of the story people maybe don't know.
Sure. Well, I appreciate the opportunity with that. The Second Swing has two versions. Version one was the version that Simon had started back in Carlson Business School back in kind of the late 90s. Simon had written a business plan based on his experience of being a college golfer with not a lot of disposable income to go out and buy a lot of clubs, and he knew that he wanted to get a different set of irons one year. It was $500,000, $700,000 back then, and being a college student, he didn't have a lot of money, so he was looking to try to create some value out of the clubs he had in his bag, and it just wasn't feasible. No one was really interested in taking trade-ins. eBay wasn't really a thing back then, and so as he went through some of those struggles being a college student, he kind of found this opportunity and he thought, oh man, Play It Again Sports exists, but it doesn't really cater to golf. And so he had created this business plan for Second Swing. At that moment, it wasn't called Second Swing, but essentially it is the concept to today. And he wrote this business plan while going to school at Carlson and submitted it, to one of his classes. I always kind of joke about whether it got a C or a B type of grade, but he was able to get some feedback, kind of at least get some initial feedback from some of the professors at the U. And then I think it was just a few months later, kind of maybe around 97, that he started to buy and sell clubs out of his basement at his house on campus at the U. And then, a few months after that, he opened up a store, which oddly enough is the exact location of our Minneapolis store today, same landlord even. And that was the first location back in the 90s of version 1 of Second Swing. So now you fast forward through that journey for him, and I think over about a 4 or 5 year plan, Second Swing opened up 60, 70 store locations using that business model. The people that were involved with that version 1 of Second Swing, there was this path to grow it. And I think back then, I think the plan was to try to sell it. And unfortunately, some things happened, maybe around 2002, 2003, where some of the board members got involved with the maybe the direction that Second Swing was going, and wanted to be more than a used golf retailer. And so with the shift in direction, it hurt the performance of the company. Plus, at that time, you also had places like Golf Galaxy coming in, and I think that online was starting to become a thing. And so there was a challenge there to keep the brick and mortar concept of what we were doing back then alive and face these challenges that were changing within the golf space. And so right around 2004, 2005, things were, the writing was on the wall for Second Swing version 1. At that time, the board and the people that were running Second Swing said, hey, we need to separate ways with, Simon, and we need to, kind of take Second Swing in the direction that we feel is best, which wasn't necessarily in Simon's vision either. And so they split paths probably around 2004, and you kind of keep going, and eventually all of those locations closed over about a 12-month period. So about 2005, 2006, all the locations were closed. During that time, Simon had taken a little bit of a break from the golf industry. I did as well. I was with him at that first version and working and, opening stores. And as you kind of make the full circle, Simon and I run into each other, and, we're talking about, things that are going on. And he's like, well, I'm buying clubs and sell them. And I was like, I would love to do that again with you. So, we kind of started tinkering a little bit, and, before you know it, we're buying clubs at, local Nevada Bobs or Golf Galaxies, and, maybe off of Craigslist back then. And, we're taking pictures in the yard. We're putting them on eBay. We're buying and selling. And we kind of got to a point where, like, well, if we can do X amount in a month, we need to go get that store location and open it up. And so we got there, and next thing you know, I was on a phone trying to negotiate a lease with the landlord in Minneapolis to open up a store location. So we got it going, and at that point, we were not Second Swing at that point, because that name was still living with version 1, but it was going through bankruptcy. Simon, I think, had some, attachment to Second Swing, maybe, sentimentally, if you would. And he's like, it'd be cool to have that name back, whether we use it or not, I want to own it. And so he went through a process to get the name through bankruptcy. And fortunately for, probably the right reasons, we were able to acquire the name back. And then before we opened the retail store, we did a kind of an online voting to people that shopped with us, as well as friends and family. And we just asked, would you rather have name A or name B? And it wasn't even close in the voting process. People wanted Second Swing. And so, all right, we're going to give this a shot. It was the spring of 2007. It was actually Masters Week when we did our opening of both the Minneapolis and the Minnetonka store that same week, and it was fun to do it on Masters Week. So, but that is when version 2 started, and it started off as 2 locations with no online presence back then, and then over time we added the online presence. We added a few stores out of state. We've really spent a lot of investment resources to really focus on what we could do well, and just trying to be good at those things, knowing that we can't be good at everything. Let's focus on a few things and try to knock hit a home run. So
Yeah. So okay, I got a bunch of questions. First of all, a comment. Second Swing is a tremendous name. In naming things is hard. Like when we started this podcast, we were like, what do we call it? Like I'm still, so, it's, I wanted something that implies that you're always learning and, whatever. And I'm still like, every time I tell somebody what it's called, I sort of like cringe. I'm like, I don't know if I'm, and so like, I can't blame the desire for one to buy the Second Swing. Cause when you nail it, you nail it. And that's, it's really good. Out of curiosity, what was the other one? Can you tell? Can you share?
I think we had, I think it was Golf Sticks. So Golf Sticks is actually, a, it's affiliated. Second Swing and Golf Sticks are affiliated. They're kind of 2 businesses in one to some degree, and so
Yeah.
that was one of the other names that was on the voting dock. So
Yeah. Okay. So the board. So having a board implies that there was a raise. There was a capital raise that happened, right? So when Simon decided to start to take this seriously, he and you, and I assume maybe was it just the 2 of you to start, or were there others as well, kind of on the founding group of people like that were involved from that first version? How many people were involved?
Honestly, I was not involved with version 1. That was Simon, and he had, raised some money from a local investor here in town to kind of get things started. And then as they got into like years 3, years 4, years 5, and we were opening lots of stores and new markets, more and more people came in to the ownership
Mm-hmm.
circle there to, for funding, help offset expenses to get these stores open and, kind of help run the business there. So, we had I think at version 1, there were, you had your board, and then you had a lot of owners that were kind of a part of the pool. So, hey,
That
buddy,
special guest here on the podcast that he makes frequent appearances.
I
Chowder,
like
the
it.
cat.
I like it. I like it.
Okay, go
Well,
over
he
here.
might have something to
Okay.
say, so
Yeah,
you
every
don't let
now
him
and
go
then he
too far.
does. Yeah, every now and then he meows right into the microphone. Um, okay, so he raises money, and you tell this story, and it really illustrates how like there's risk involved in that, because then you get more cooks in the kitchen, right? And all of a sudden, the vision of the board and Simon's vision starts to they start to fork, and these guys they have this aspiration, and they're growing in this way, and Simon's, it's not really aligning with what his initial vision was. And um, what's really interesting to me is how quickly, so they say, hey, like, we're not aligned anymore, let's part ways. It took less than 2 calendar years for that version to completely fail, and for you guys to have the opportunity to buy the IP back and restart. And it sounds like from the start there was a lot of bootstrapping that was involved. And then did you guys then go and re raise money? And was there then a new board that was more aligned with the vision, or have you guys bootstrapped from the beginning, from that new beginning?
So with version 2, there was a small initial fund, we did a little bit of raising early on, and then we also went out and got an SBA loan. It was kind of at the time, this is like 2007 or so, and we were, I think the economy was starting to face some challenges, and so looking at a business concept that specialized in used golf clubs that just went through bankruptcy as Second Swing. It wasn't exactly something that many banks or lenders were looking to tie their name to. And I don't remember for sure, but I think we went through about 20 different meetings with different folks. And then we were fortunate enough to run into Bridgewater Bank, who had, I think, just opened their first branch, and they were willing to say, hey, they were confident enough to say, we'll take a risk and take a chance on you guys. And luckily it worked out for all of us. So but early on we kept it very small. We kept the control really between Simon and myself, so majority of ownership would always be here, and we would not dilute that as we went forward. So trying to keep it, small family owned business, and keep it true to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm jumping ahead here a little bit, but one thing that you mentioned that I thought was interesting is, you bring on a board, and the mentality of people who get involved in things like that is a very like build it, sell it, right? They're the liquidity event, the exit, right? And from my conversations with you, previously and thus far, and knowing each other, I get the feeling that you guys aren't operating Second Swing today with the end in mind in that manner, right? You guys are really focused on running a really great business, your customer experience, right? I don't get a lot of sense that you're looking to some time horizon for some exit. Is that accurate to say?
That's
You guys
100%
are just
accurate. We're not looking for an exit strategy at all, and we want to create great jobs in the golf industry for people that want to work in this space. And we know that Simon, myself, we can form a vision, we can talk to it, we can support it, but having great people around it that can help push it forward, that's really what is a secret ingredient. And we're not going anywhere anytime soon. So
yeah. So let's fast forward now to today. So now we have Second Swing of today. And Second Swing of today, if you're listening to this and you're either a non-golfer or you haven't been to a retail store of Second Swing and you've only maybe shopped online, or maybe you're not even familiar, go to the Second Swing, especially I don't know if you would call it this, but to me it's kind of like the flagship location in Minnetonka. It's like Disney World. Okay. It is such a fantastic shopping experience. You can get lost in there, and I don't mean lost in a bad way. I mean like you just get you're hitting putts on. They have the technology where it shows you the little line of your putt from a projector overhead. They've got what 15 golf simulators, and there's thousands of clubs in there, and there's dozens of employees running around and be like, hey, what do you think of that club? Well, hey, you want to try that out? And I'm like, come here, give me a hug, like, and so it's fantastic, right? And your guys' focus on the customer experience is really evident, right? Here's the question here, right? When you guys have grown, right, and you have like these two areas where you're building an online juggernaut, right? You're like, your online retail is enormous, right? And you guys have a lot of focus on your online shopping experience, but then you also have this brick and mortar business, and you have grown into multiple locations. You have a couple in the Twin Cities. You have Arizona, Texas, Delaware, which maybe I got to ask you about Delaware because that seems random, but and there's another that I'm missing, right? And so you have grown to multiple locations, but not nearly as aggressively as V1, where they failed, right? But the experience that you're creating in person is it's clear that it's very thoughtful and intentional about doing that. So when you're building this experience and you're looking at these two businesses, how do you balance the differences between building those businesses? Because those are almost two entirely separate customer experiences that you're building.
The online and the in-store, is that what you're referring to? Just
Yeah,
clarify.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, one thing that we have had probably since day one is the golfer's experience is at the center of our dartboard. And then everything around that we do, whether it's the first ring, the second ring, the outer ring, the dartboard, whatever, it all stems back to how does this impact what the golfer experiences? How does it impact their feel? We know that they love to talk about themselves. They love to tinker. They get excited about, maybe hitting the ball a little bit further or a little bit higher or getting more forgiveness and just shooting lower scores. And so we want to be a partner in that journey with golfers. And, as you've said, you've got an in-store experience and then an online experience of running a business has been historically the brick and mortar side. And so as we've opened locations, we have worked hard to create, when we open a new store, we work really hard to take our most recent store and say, what did we like the most? What do we want to add so that we make this new location even better than the last? And so I always like to give people, when possible, you go to our first stores here in Minnesota and you get a little feel of what's there. And then if you go to, if you happen to be traveling down south, you get to Scottsdale or you get to Dallas and you get to go into those stores, it's night and day difference of what that experience is like. You walk in and much like here, you get that awe factor of how many golf clubs are in this space, thousands. And then once you get beyond that, like you mentioned, there's this putting green that's designed with undulation, and there's movement. There's a little bit of a fast putt going downhill, and then there's breaks in it. And, you add in the technology above you to actually lay out the topography of the putting green. And so you can see how the putt breaks and how fast to hit it or how hard to hit it. And so now, you get past clubs and you walk into experiences. And then you add on top of that interaction, people that can add value to what you're doing in your own journey in golf. So from a store side, we feel really good about where we're at and, the direction we're going there. Simon has done, I think, an amazing job with, what we're doing in the online space and working with, people that, that's not a space either of us really knew early on. And I think that Simon has jumped into that space with people that know that space and, helping, I think, create the vision there. And then they are the ones helping us bring it to life. So, we're not where we want to be yet in the online space. We're going to take some leaps and bounds over the next couple of years to get closer, but we really want to be able to create that same feeling for a golfer that we do in store. We want to bring that to life online. And so, being able to feel and see the selection and then also to have the experiences available, through an online opportunity. It's going to look and feel different, but to be able to do that, I mean, being able to, places, there's other places out there today that, maybe offer the ability to, demo some clubs or, maybe there's an opportunity to, talk to a fitter. Working hard in those spaces to complement what golfers want to help them get further in their journey. And so our online vehicle, our website is going to, it's going to evolve over the next 2, 3, 5 years to really help bring experiences to life, through a website. And it'll be different. It'll be, different. We have been a company that, if you look at the golf industry, if the golf industry is turning right, we might turn left, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not intentional. It's just that's what we feel and that's what we believe, and it might not be right, but we feel it's like a better fit for us. And so from an online standpoint, online shopping is a lot about transactions and clicks and kind of getting to what you want fast and getting checked out of there easily. And we want to be able to provide that. We also want to complement it with the things that we do really well in store. And so we've got some
Mm-hmm.
things up our sleeve here that'll come to life over the next couple of years that I think will help golfers feel more confident about the equipment they're choosing and even help get them whether it's data or exposure to fitters or just options we're going to give them the opportunity to feel like they're shopping in store, but do it from an online perspective. So
Yeah.
we're excited
It's
for
really
what
interesting.
online can do for us down the road.
Yeah. You know, the in-person shopping experience in some ways is like, how much time can we get them to spend in the store? And the online shopping experience in so many ways is how quickly can we get them to the cart and out, right? Like less friction, less clicks, a quick checkout, abandoned carts and all that. But if you're thinking about creating that experience, you're trying to create an online space where they can spend some real time and enjoy themselves. And that's an interesting thing to chew on, because it is kind of a left turn from what most e-commerce is doing. But I think in the end, like zigging while others zag tends to pay off if you get the culture right. That's really interesting. You mentioned fitting. So you guys are the official fitting partner of the PGA of America, which is really really cool. It looks like, in my research, there is an interview that I found, and by the way, this is the only interview I've found from Simon or from anybody, and we can come back to that. But 2014, and he mentioned about how getting custom fit was such a huge piece of what Second Swing does, and et cetera. And so it seems like the fitting experience has been part of what you guys do from the beginning, right? Or at least from more than 10 years ago, right? And that's something that I think is really interesting, because today there's so many resources out there with the internet. There's social media accounts talking about golf equipment. Oh, if you want this, MOQ on your driver, and oh, you got to get the weight forward to lower spin and lower launch, and like you can look this stuff up. But when you played collegiate golf, when you were a kid growing up, how did you learn that stuff? And did you just have to go see a fitter and see somebody who had expertise, or did you have to figure it out for yourself? Or how has that grown inside of the culture of Second Swing?
So fitting over the years, you go back to like the mid 90s or early 2000s, fitting was not a common thing. So when you were choosing equipment, it was often more through a demo experience. Go hit a few shots, find the one you like, and you go. And as we got a little bit further, so maybe around 2010, 2012, fitting was becoming an experience that more golfers were looking for, because they started to, and I think manufacturers helped lead the way, especially Ping, in a sense that if you launch a golf ball at a certain trajectory with a certain amount of spin, it will do different things. And for a lot of players, that meant straighter, more distance. And that became, I think, a leading factor of why golfers wanted that experience. They didn't necessarily have to spend a lot of money to tweak their equipment to hit the ball straighter or further. And so, what we do from an internal business planning standpoint is we do feedback. And I think, when we started to identify the trend from our team, what are you hearing? What's one thing we could do different to be better? And our team is telling us, hey, we need to get further along the line in fitting. It's more of a talking point amongst, journalism, social media at that time, just golfers walking in the store. Hey, can you guys offer this fitting experience? And so back in around maybe 2014 is when we started to really dive into fitting. And I think at that point, we started to create these bays and the fitting experience and what this meant. And we identified how the trend in golf was shifting in that direction. And we didn't need to be the best at it. We just needed to be really good at it. And so when a golfer walks in, they can get data, they can find a good club option that complements their unique tendencies. They can, have some fun, build that relationship with who they're working with. And that became the experience that, I think a lot of golfers trust us with. They know that when they come in, they can try a lot of equipment. They can, have data at their fingertips. They can have an expert help them connect the dots between their tendencies and the right type of clubs. And then they can have this expert also make some small modifications from shaft length, shaft weight, flex, line angles, lofts, and we can do a lot in there to kind of work on the finishing pieces, if you would, that help golfers dial it in even more. And so they can get all of this at no cost. So, to be able to get the experience, the service, a little bit of extra, going to see the doctor costs a lot of money these days. Well, going in to see a fitter doesn't, at least for us. I know other places charge dollars to, come in and get fit, but we believe it's an added value. You're in there, you're going to spend, maybe $500 today on a new driver or $1,000 on a new iron set. Well, that's an investment. And so we want to make sure that you make the right investment, and we want to be a partner with you on that journey. And so we look at it a way for us to kind of add value and say thanks by being able to provide that service to golfers that are buying with us.
Yeah,
Hopefully that made
I think
sense.
no, it does, absolutely. I think it's really interesting because it's kind of unique to golf. And I'm a little newer to the game of golf. I didn't start golfing until I was an adult. And when I was starting to watch YouTube videos and how to hit your driver straighter and this and that, and almost every internet golf personality that you look at, they're like, step one, if you're a new golfer, get fit for your clubs. And I'm like, well, shit, maybe I should get fit. I wonder where I can do that. Right. And so I go get fit for a driver at second swing. And, and now I've got this driver that I hit really well for about a season. And then something happened and now I can't. Now I have to do another fitting. But that's neither here nor there. So, I think it's really great. So I want to segue to this because this is something that I think we could spend another half hour kind of talking about because, when I think about you specifically, Russ, I had the pleasure of being at your office on a work day. And I got to kind of get this little glimpse behind the curtain of who you are at work. Right. And that is kind of what you'd expect, right? You're a leader. Every person that walked through that door, you greeted them, said good morning, you knew their name, right? Other people, like you can feel that this is a positive place to work. Now, with that said, another thing that I really believe is that a measure of a leader, or even as a person, is what are people saying about you when you're not around? So let me tell you a little story. Okay. I'm at Chaska Town Course, golf course in local here in Minnesota. And I'm wearing this hat that I have on, the second swing hat, right? And I'm checking in for my tee time. And the guy working the counter goes, oh, hey, second swing, I work there. And I was like, oh yeah, like that's your that's your day job? And he's like, yeah. This is part-time, right? You get free golf. So, and I'm like, yeah, cool. I was like, do you like working there? He goes, dude, I love it. It's great. Right. And like everybody that works there is like, they're all golfers. And I was like, so funny enough, like Russ Higgins, like your boss, I know him. His son is a baseball player and I own a baseball place. And, so we've met and gotten to know each other a little bit through that. And he's like, dude, how great of a guy is he? And I'm just thinking, and he's like, and I was like, dude, he's the best. And he's like, he's such a nice guy and he's so friendly. And he's like, yeah, he goes, I don't know how, like, I go to work and I'm like surly. It's 8:30 in the morning. I'm tired. Like I love my job, but even sometimes I'm not in the best mood. And he is never not in a great mood. I was like, how is this guy doing this? Right. And I thought to myself, like, this is remarkable because you know how many people talk about their boss that way when they're not around? So few, right? So few, right? And so I want to dig into this, right? Because it's clear to me that there is a lot of positive leadership going on with you, your organization, who you work with on a day-to-day basis. And what I want to know first and foremost is, do you feel that this is something that came natural to you and this is why you settled into the role that you're in? Or was this something that was like a really deliberately practiced and learned skill for you?
I'd say there's a mix of that. It was for me personally. First off, you must have caught the right guy on the right day. Maybe I'm not sure. So I don't know that everyone feels that way, but great to hear that feedback. for me personally, I think over the years, it's been a mix. It's been a learning process. Um, I would say that in working with Simon for as long as I have, he has definitely helped. I think our relationship is pretty unique, but he has definitely helped guide and maneuver us as a company, me as who I am, through this journey together. And um, just a little bit there, for Simon and I, we've been good friends since playing golf at the University of Minnesota together back in the 90s. And, when we started working together, you have this friendship, and, oftentimes friendship doesn't always work out in the workplace. But I think early on when we started this version 2, there was this unique understanding. We're going to be friends first and foremost, but when it comes to work, we're gonna layer this in a way where we're gonna Simon's my boss, but we're gonna have tons of mutual respect, but we work really well together. There's just this very unique relationship between the two of us that I think really helps drive, probably, my success, but, allows me to be who I am. And, we understand strengths, we understand weaknesses. And I think when we look at our team and all the people that are here at Second Swing, we look at it, a lot of times org charts kind of, all right, you start at the top and you kind of work your way down. And we look at it as if it's a inverse triangle almost. And so you find us down here at the bottom, and we look at ourselves as, yes, we are who we are, but we are here to support the people and help, I think, provide guidance so that they can be the best at their jobs. And so part of that is, just doing small things like you acknowledged there, of maybe greeting people in the morning, or, asking them about things that are going on in their life. Working with them, always making time for them, is a big part of what we do here. But it's required. So if from my standpoint, if I'm going to be down at the bottom of that triangle, if you would, I got there's a lot there to balance and a lot there to help support. So as we start to climb up, adding great people in there helps make that support structure wider and helps make us even better. And so, my journey along the way, there's been a lot of learning moments. I think that I've always loved the golf industry, growing up in it, competing in it. I've learned over time that I think I love competing more than I love the game of golf. And the game of golf just gave me that outlet to compete. And so being able to do both, be able to compete, work in the golf space, it's a bullseye for me. But I think there's a lot to learn, and hate to say it, I'm probably only about halfway to the where I probably need to be when it comes to learning stuff. So, but when it comes to people, it's pretty simple. They're a huge asset with us here. We hire well, we train, we coach, and we spend a lot of time trying to make our people a part of the process. I mentioned our fall business planning earlier in the conversation. We spend about 4 to 5 weeks doing a feedback session, usually around late summer, early fall, and we do a lot of meetings like this. We do one-on-ones in person. We do an all-company piece, but we spend a lot of time trying to identify, what did we do well this year? What are opportunities? Where do we need to be in 5 years? And we get a lot of voices heard. So we get a lot of buy-in, a lot of input. And then that feedback helps us create or modify maybe our 5-year plan, and then what we need to do here heading into next season. And so it's that I think is an important part of the process, but also it allows us to connect with everybody within Second Swings, whether it's someone that receives equipment here at the warehouse, someone checking out a golfer at the store, someone working on an online issue, or someone working in HR. We try to connect with everybody, and I think that is probably what you felt and what you saw. That's a product of those efforts there. So yeah, we're pretty fortunate. I think every day when I hear maybe comments like that, I just kind of, almost shake my head a little bit and just, it's like, you know what, I'm super fortunate to be around a lot of great people. And, we're all heading in the same direction. We're all kind of fighting the same fight and trying to win the same battle, if you would. And so having that type of feel, around like a team environment, going in the same direction, always willing to pick each other up and support each other. It's pretty unique. It's special. So I feel very fortunate to be a part of that.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting, it's really challenging for any person to lead other people towards a common goal sometimes, because you're balancing holding everybody to a very high standard of, excellent work and getting the job done, and we're a growing business, and you guys are still considered a small business based on your, your head count, and the human natural tendency to want to be liked is always kind of existing in the background, and you don't want to create conflict, and you're managing like, hey, like, I hired this guy, I think he's great, I see his potential, but he made this mistake and we need to address and correct that and learn from it, right? And approaching those things from a way that can be a positive experience and a constructive experience is such an art, and those people who can do that, you see them like build this momentum of impact and community, and people want to fall in and follow them wherever they're headed, because it has gravity, and I think that if you learn to look for it, you recognize it right when you see it. And I think it's inspiring. Whenever I see it, I always want, and I recognize that in people, I always just try to be, I'm like, I want to be around this person as much as I can. Like, whatever it looks like, just need to be in this area, because it's infectious, it's contagious. And I think it's the kind of thing that you really want to be infected with.
Yeah, I think you said a lot there, and I would echo a lot of what that was right there. So it's
Yeah.
being around those people is infectious, and seeing what they do to create that environment or that feel, uh, it's eye opening.
Yeah. So here's a question for you, and this is, we're starting to get into sort of life outside of work here, but you're somebody who I would categorize as like a really down to earth person, right? And building a business like yours, I imagine, comes with some modicum of financial success, right? But it is evident that you have not allowed that to change what you believe is your personal values, and there's nothing about you that suggests that you are making any effort to let the world know that, like, hey, I'm running a really successful business. Like, you need to know this, right? I'm going to drive a flashy car, or I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to have 20 private country club memberships and make sure I bring it up when I talk to people. None of that happens, right? So, when you look at your success thus far, right? And obviously you don't feel like you're done, but how have you juggled that? I imagine there's a temptation there. Any person experiencing the kind of success that you guys have had over the last decade or so would have that temptation. And is that a conscious thing, or is it just one of those things where you shrug and say, I don't know, it's just not me?
I would say it's definitely a conscious thing. I think my first reaction to that, is probably credit to my parents, and then I think the next maybe person or people on that list actually would probably be, Simon. I think we, both grew up in a relatively small town, maybe, kind of, hardworking type community, where some of those things just weren't, around us every day. And so I think, kind of having maybe more of a humble style, where it's not necessarily maybe low key, maybe it comes across that way, but it's, something that, we value. I think, it's, going out and buying a flashy car, not really a whole lot of interest there, but, wanting to spend time with my family, or, maybe, learning about, spending time even with people here outside of work, learning about them, those are the areas that, those are the ones that I think I feel that I get, maybe I earn some value in there. So, others maybe, they go out and get something. For me, I'd say it's much more, I want that time with my family, my friends, the people here. And I think that's where the reward's at. So I think that, again, go back to kind of credit my folks. And then I think the fact that Simon and I share a lot of the same, maybe experiences growing up really lends itself to both of us.
Yeah, and that's evident. One thing, like I mentioned previously, I alluded to this. You guys aren't the quote unquote faces of the company the way that some leaders are. The way that, like, Simon's face isn't. I had to dig a little bit to find out what he looked like, even. A lot of CEOs and founders, they kind of are. I, this sounds negative. They're sort of parade. They're the front of the parade, right? They're the face of the company, right? They might take interviews. They might be in, here's an example. If you go to the Second Swing website, there's a video talking about what Second Swing is, right? It's like a sales video or like an advertisement to the fitting experience and the shopping experience. It's neither of you in that video. It's James, who is I'm not 100% clear on his title. He's the head of shopping experience, or he's the head of the fitting experience online. I don't know, but it's James as the face of that, and not Simon, not the CEO and the founder, right? Not Russ, the president, right? It's one of your staff. Now, granted, one of the other leadership, but still, you guys have made, it's evident that you've made a decision that you guys are the bottom of that pyramid, as you described, right? And hearing you describe that was like painting the perfect picture of what my impression has been from trying to like do research for this. Like, all right, well, let me find some more information about these guys. And then there isn't any. So, you guys, the humility that you show in that, I think, is really reflected in the culture of your business. So that's, I don't know. I think it's admirable. Others might argue that you would it would benefit to be a little bit more public, but I personally believe that that's really admirable, the humility that comes with that.
I would, yeah, I agree. I think that's just who we are, and we know the brand we're trying to create, the vision we're trying to get to, and with all the great people that are around us, we know that they can do a great job in moments like that with telling the story about Second Swing. So we're happy to share that, and we're not here to boost our own agendas. We're here to create great jobs in the golf space, and I think that's where we keep our focus most of the time.
So let me backtrack a little bit. There was something that I was curious about that. This is more for me, but listeners, you can deal with this. So your warehouse, it's like Santa's workshop. There are tens of thousands of golf clubs in there. And you guys have a distributed warehousing system as well. Some clubs are at the retail stores. And if I buy a club online, it may get shipped from the Scottsdale store to me. It might get shipped from the Minneapolis store, or it might come from the warehouse, the HQ warehouse. You guys went to business school. However, that's an animal in and of itself. How did you learn to operate a system like that? Was it just, is like, to me, when I look at that, I see this massive operation. I'm like, oh my God, it looks logistically so challenging. But of course, you guys built from the one store, and then you built from, so is it today, is it just it's just the final phase of building on one step after another and each domino falling? Or did you guys have somebody or some group of people that really came in and helped you build that system, taught you how to do that?
That's a result of building blocks and doing just that next generation or next what do we need to do to enhance this as we go forward. We've had people that have consulted and I think shared best practices with us around distribution centers, organizing warehouses, and maybe how to manage some of the processes within there. But what I think what you're referring to and what you've seen is that is a result of building blocks year after year after year, and taking some of those best practices, applying them to what we do, and Yeah, it is it's a golfer's candy store for sure. If you can walk through there and not try to pick up a club and wiggle it, you're doing pretty good. So
I was, for the listener, I was with the day I mentioned I got the chance to go over there, and I was with a small group of people, and I got left behind once or twice because I was doing exactly that. I was standing there holding a club that I pulled out of a bin, like, look at this thing. And then I look up and I'm left behind. Oh shit, put it back down and catch up. Sorry guys, I got distracted. There was a 5 hybrid. I've never even seen that before, it's such a cool operation. So here's my last question for you. I think outside of retail, where do you see the biggest opportunity in the golf industry today or over the next 5 to 10 years? I have some friends, they want to, they're like, God, I got to quit my corporate job. I should try to work in golf, but I want to start a business. Let's just be streamers. Let's be golf streamers. Let's just go play golf and film it. That's probably the best one. And I'm like, guys, I don't know if that's like the best opportunity, right? It's kind of a lottery ticket kind of thing, right? Also, none of you are funny. So that's, but with that being said, like when you look at the industry, because the industry is growing, I would argue at a very rapid pace, right? The sport has exploded in popularity. Where do you see the best opportunities outside of retail?
well, now Zach, I mean, I can't share all the secrets with you, so I'll have to limit the feedback here. But
Okay.
um, the game is, I think the obvious points here, the game is growing right now. Since COVID, the game has seen a lot of new golfers come in. A lot of people return to the game. Rounds of golf are, they grew since COVID, and they've maintained, if not even grown a little bit more here in the last couple of years. And so, there's a lot of interest in the game of golf, and finding ways to keep people engaged, keep people continuing to grow within the game, I think is where some opportunities lie. Now, that could be, through different opportunities from a playing standpoint. Maybe it's in lessons, maybe it's in how you create some sort of social network, or maybe even just connecting to tee times are a battle for a lot of folks out there right now. And so being able
Man.
to, get visibility of tee times is, something that, as a golfer, you might have a couple courses that you go to kind of like in your first round. Oh, let's go see what they got available for tee times. Oh no, not nothing really there. Now you're on to like option 6, 7, and 8, trying to find a tee
Mm.
time for the day and time that you want, and it's a challenge. So having some visibility to opportunities that are out there, there's probably some value there for golfers. Um, I think that's kind of outside the retail side of things, but keeping people engaged. What are those barriers that they're struggling with the game? I think it's finding tee times easily. Continuing to get better. Golf's a frustrating sport, so if you can find ways to increase enjoyment, that's a huge win. That might be just by lessons, or maybe who you play with from like a social network standpoint as well. So I think those are a couple avenues that do exist today, and whether it's the PGA of America or maybe small businesses trying to find those solutions out there. I think those are on the radar for a 2, 3, 5 year plan for sure.
Could not agree more about the tea time thing. I have thought many times, my friends and I are trying to get a tea time, and we're all at our computers. We're texting back and forth, like, I'll check this place. You check that place. I'll check this place. And then, nothing there. How about this one? No, nothing there. How about this one? Nothing there. Okay, oh, we found one, right? Oh, it's at 6:22 a.m. on Saturday. Get it. Just get it. We got to have something, right? And so, I think about that all the time. There's these softwares that are all embedded on the golf course websites, and there's maybe 4 big ones. And I keep thinking to myself, like, God, if somebody could get those software companies to provide API access to some centralized software, and I could add my favorite courses and just look at my dashboard, like what tee times are available, that I would. And I've even gone as far as starting to like attempt to vibe code this thing. And I run my own business, so I only have so much time to tinker with these side projects. But Golf Now is a real head scratcher for me because that app kind of, I don't know. I mean, it still exists, I suppose, but in my opinion, it kind of failed. It kind of missed it. The concept is so good, right? Like, I want to golf. I want to golf now. Let me see what tee times, right? But what they had was they had all the courses could voluntarily add their tee times to that or not. And what's the incentive to the course? They're full. Their tee sheets are full. Why do they need to do anything? They don't need to give anybody permission, right? Well, I have a full tee sheet. I don't need to do anything except raise my prices. And then I raise the prices and the tee sheet's still full, raise them again, right? And so that's what we see right now with the supply and demand of tee times. I don't I don't know if in today's golf market that business can work, but it should. Like, I need it. And I really believe that would be a solution for a lot of people, right? And with that said, supply and demand problem, it would be great if there was somehow a barrier that lowered a little bit on entry to the tee times in the first place. Like, if somebody was able to go and start building more golf courses, that would be great too. And I don't mean simulator places, and I don't mean Top Golf. I mean actual golf courses. But obviously, that's not easy, right? You need a lot of land and a lot of money. So beggars, beggars can't be choosers, I think, and that's the situation we're in now. But I couldn't agree more. I think about that. I think about that opportunity all the time, all the time. So I don't know.
It might be your next thing, Zach. That might be it, man.
Maybe.
Right there.
Maybe, right? I need to learn to actually code instead of asking my AI bots to do it. But so Russ, listen, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I know you don't normally do interviews. It's a real pleasure to talk to you, to get some of this background and to be able to share it to the people that listen to this. And I think it inspires. I like to talk to people who I think have inspirational careers or stories, and I think that your story can really inspire a lot of other people to go and pursue what speaks to them authentically. So thank you very much.
Well, Zach, thanks for creating a vehicle like this where you can capture maybe some inspirational moments or stories to share out there. I think that's really cool. Thanks for thinking of me and letting us be a part of a part of it as well. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. All right, that's it.